Yay.
Welcome.
Welcome. Good job, Danny Dog. Good job.
Okay, so we're comfortable here. We're sitting in the upstairs of Benton Guest House. We do have a heater running, so if the noise is an issue for anyone, please let us know in the comments. I don't know if you can hear the heater at all or not, but it's warm enough now that if it's a sound problem, we can turn that off. So, Evie, hello. Hello.
Good morning.
Okay, so let's see.
Captain Hulk says the noise isn't that bad.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we'll leave it on for a little bit and then we'll turn it off. Hi everybody. We've got some initial questions to ask, and it's really cool that we have a bunch of people here already, and we just started, so we might not have to wait for people to slowly filter in, but we'll fill a few minutes here in the beginning just talking about some things. I actually wrote some notes, so we're prepared. All right, Steve's here, Real Rural Japan checking in. So before we get to those comments, while people are showing up, we have some notes prepared to just sort of cover what we've done in the past month. And what we're doing here, I guess I'll just back up a tiny bit. What we're doing here is, our initial plan with the live stream was to only do it when something cool was happening. But when I put out the question to the community of how frequently you would like to see live streams, we were both pretty shocked that over 80% of the results said you guys wanted an opportunity to chat with us each month. And then we got 0 votes for every 2 months and 0 votes for every 3 months. So that was a huge surprise. So we've been working and thinking and talking behind the scenes about, well, what can we do each month? How do we keep it interesting? So we've been thinking about a general format for how to run these. So we thought at the very, very beginning of each video, we could start by talking about what we've covered, what we've done over the past month. And that'll fill a little bit of this time while people are filtering in. And then we can move on to the topic and answering questions. And I do plan to answer any questions first that were asked ahead of time, because those are usually people who can't make the live stream. So I'll answer their questions first, so it's easiest for them to find the answers to their questions during the replay. So we're only 2 minutes in here, so we're still going to cover, we're going to fill some time and talk about what we did over the past month, and then we'll pop into answering those questions.
Okay. You want me to talk about it? What?
Yeah.
So start at the top?
Yeah.
Well, we got our visa extension, and we were hoping to get, so we got our, we had our startup visa for 6 months, and then we got our official 1-year business manager visa, which we were told is the most we could ever expect is 1 year. And our lawyer told us that after that 1 year, there was a good chance we would get a 3-year renewal. So we were looking forward to that, and unfortunately, we only got 1 year, and that was just.
So we've had 6 months, and then 1 year, and then another 1 year.
Mm-hmm. And so that's a bit of a bummer, to be honest. But the reason is basically that the whole business manager visa thing is based on your business plan. So there's not a set income requirement. It's sort of a game of chicken with the immigration authorities, where you're coming up with a plan, and then you're having to demonstrate that you're meeting that plan. And if you don't, then you have to account for why not, and so forth. And so our income fell short of our projections, and that's why we think that we didn't get the 3 years.
Well, it was also that he said that we spent more than we made, because of course it was still our first year of business. So we were keeping track of every expense for our accountant, of course, and the first year while we were getting set up still, We were past the startup visa period, but it was still our first year of operation, and we were technically in the red because we spent more than we earned the first year. So that seems like a reasonable idea for why immigration only gave us 1 year instead of 3 at our second renewal.
And hey, we got some super chats here already. Darren Marshall, I guess that's from Steve. He says Steve doesn't have a credit card.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Darren.
And Darren sent us some too, so thank you very much, both of y'all.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
What's the balloon icon here? Do I click that?
I don't know.
Let's put it up there. Oh no, I don't know if that does.
Okay, I think it says he's the first. So Darren and Steve, thank you guys.
I'm a boomer, y'all.
Yeah, we don't. We're very not technologically inclined doing these live streams, but it's working so far.
So back to our, I don't think there's really any reason to fear, the visa renewal process. I think they just want to keep you under their thumb, and so I don't think there's any reason that we won't be renewed again. It's just it is a hardship to have to pay your immigration lawyer every year as opposed to every 3 years, of course.
And of course the stress of having to go through the application process and waiting. Although I am encouraged by the speed at which we get a response from immigration. A lot of people have told us, and our immigration lawyer told us to expect, I think he said like 4 to 8 weeks for a response, and some people have said up to 12 weeks or more after they submit an application. And both times that we've received the 1-year business manager visa, we got a response from immigration in less than 2 weeks. It was like 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, it was like a couple days this time, right?
Yeah, it was super fast. So
it was September?
So they're seeing our application. It was October.
So we applied in October, and we heard back
on
within
Halloween,
a week.
On Halloween, yeah. So we knew on Halloween that we would get another year, even though our deadline wasn't until essentially Christmas. So for some reason, all of this immigration stuff happens on holidays for us. We applied super early and we got a response super early, and then so we got another year tacked on, and our current visa, it will get us through until this Christmas, so we'll be applying again this September or October. So maybe that's enough time filled. We didn't really go through what we've done the past month, but we've got a lot of people here, a lot of comments coming in, and it's 7 minutes in, so maybe we should hop over to some questions. How does that sound? Now first, we had one question come up a couple of days ago on the chat, and it disappeared somehow, but I remember the question. I don't remember the username. So whoever asked about sheep in Japan, we're going to answer that one real quick because I know you are going through the startup visa process, and this is a video specifically about the startup visa. So
Is that the person who wants to do a dairy here?
Yeah, she wants to do sheep milk.
Oh, it's just like goat.
Goat. Oh, goat. Is it goats?
Please
goats.
come to Ōmishima. I would buy your goat milk.
We would definitely buy it.
And we want to do sheep here actually, but if you do it, you can do it, and I'll just do other stuff.
Yeah. So she was asking about locations in Japan for doing goats or sheep, I guess, the dairy. What do you think about that?
Oh, I mean, I just think that the thing with Japan is it's a really interesting history-wise, but long story short, they converted every square inch of flat land they could to rice paddies because of the feudal system that they were using, and now all those rice paddies are not all, but on our island anywhere you go in Japan, you're going to see plenty of defunct rice paddies. So I just think anywhere in Japan is going to be an easy place. Not easy, but you know what I mean. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for sheep no matter where you are. And also historically, like in the distant past, Japan they don't know where Japan comes from culturally, right? But they think that it's descended from the Mongols, which are all, nomads and herders. So in the distant past, Japan was sort of more covered in grasslands than it is today, and so, hey, have at it. Go back to converting that to, go back to that with your sheep, and I think that's a great way to go.
Yeah.
We're thinking about that. Sheep and goats, of course. And the thing about goats is, we have a lot of overgrown woodland too, so you can take your goats over there and bulldoze the place, because that's what goats are good for, right?
Yeah. And Patricia says, just hopping down in the comments, she says goats are great in hilly areas, helps with trimming their feet. And again, I'm sorry I don't remember your username who had this question, but you're going to know who you are. And I know that you've been working on narrowing down your locations based on startup visa locations. So this new information about it being nationwide, you said something about it's like thrown a welcome change in your path, because now you have your options are open, or at least they will be soon. So let's go through these initial questions, then we can start talking about the changes of the startup visa, and we can go over the video information that I put out earlier this week. So starting from the top, Matsukawa, you had a question about our specific farm. We're going to go ahead and, we're not going to talk about our plans for the next year in this video, because I'm sure we can easily fill the 2 hours with questions specifically about the startup visa. So sorry about that, but sticking to the startup topic just this month. Darren says, "Morning guys, a question I have you ever come across or are you aware of any age-based restrictions on either the startup or the business manager visa? I ain't getting any younger." Well, neither are we.
Short answer, no. And I mean, the population, you're young by Japanese standards, long story short. But there's going to be some subsidies that are available to younger couples and people who are trying to start a family in the rural areas, so you'll be not eligible for those. That's probably not going to be a deal breaker in terms of, business concerns. And then, what's the other thing I was going to say about that?
No age restrictions that we're aware of for the startup visa specifically, but there may be age restrictions for the farmer's license.
Yeah, that's right. You have to be 40 or under to get a farmer's license, but there's a loophole there too, which is if you have we're still looking into this because we don't technically own any farmland yet, but since we own a farming business, a farming corporation, we should be able to. I was talking to Nomoto-san, the local realtor extraordinaire, and he was saying, yeah, that should be easy. And then, of course, he was saying, a particular field that we're trying to buy he said, what's the condition of the field? And I said, well, it's all overgrown with trees, and he said, oh, well, if it's overgrown with trees, it's a really easy process to turn it into forest land, to rezone it as forest land, and then you buy it, and then you can rezone it back to farmland, which I have no idea why you would want to do that, but that's, something a realtor.
It's apparently an option. I was surprised to see that Nomoto-san said that seems to be a simple process. He said it can be easier than trying to just straight up purchase.
And most of the people we're talking to and most of the people we're helping with our consulting are around 50, I would say, age-wise.
So a couple relevant comments, popping down to the current comments. We've got, says, rice fields have a different tax, may be difficult to change for other uses. Not familiar with that, but that's good information to go off of. And Steve, our co-host today, he's going to be in the comments here really talking about the immigration stuff. Steve at Real Rural Japan says, we got a farmer's license and we are over 40.
Way to go, Steve, giving us all hope.
Yes.
And you know what's interesting? Joel Salatin, who's a very famous farmer in the United States, his father actually immigrated to the United States from Paraguay or one of those South American countries when he was 40. So, can be done.
Now, we had a couple of goat comments come in, so I'm going to read those real quick. Stacy, hi Stacy, hi Wayne. Stacy says yes to goats, goat milk, cheese. And she also says she's seen a goat farm Airbnb somewhere in Japan, so that's cool.
There's a farmer on Ikuchijima who was also just the subject of a couple of videos by our friend Stephen Cornett at Nature is Always Right. His name is Michael, I think. He has sheep. His main gig is just vegetables, but he also has sheep, and he reached out to us and he said that he'd be willing to sell us some of his sheep if we wanted to get started.
And Matsukawa says mountain grazing is actually pretty popular in Japan too. And Marcus says we were going to stay on a goat farm last trip, so
Nice.
that's pretty cool. Marcus is actually coming to visit us from Australia pretty soon, so we're starting to get some things planned. He wants to come here and do some work along with some fun. So
Yeah, and mountain grazing and mountain orange growing is a thing here on Ōmishima. So put those together. I think the goats would eat your citrus leaves, but the sheep, that's why we're targeting sheep.
let's see, another current comment.
Oh, he moved to Venezuela? His father did?
Patricia says he moved to Venezuela in his 40s, then had to come back due to the chaos.
Oh, that's bizarre. I did not. Okay, I had that information there. Thanks.
And Steve says people should look into Genya land titles as it's farmland and you can build on it. That's good information. I've never even heard of that, Steve. He says, I have a couple of Genyas.
Well, why don't you brag about it?
All right. Okay, so moving back up to our earlier questions. Stacy says, how does the visa work for a couple? Do both people need to be involved in the business to get the visa? That is an excellent question that we personally have experience in. So you can go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, no, you're gonna get the one person is gonna apply for the business manager visa. So I'm the business manager, and Danny is my spouse. She has a spouse visa, and she's only allowed to work up to 28 hours, which is of course not something we're following. But she's not.
I'm basically working 28 hours a day, so.
And she's not getting paid. So we have, and again, like the condition for the start of visa is you need to be paying a salary. But the thing there is because Japan is like kind of household based as opposed to individual based in like the United States for taxation, is my salary, which is this game of chicken with the authorities where we had to decide how much we're going to be like paying me, which is sort of an imaginary thing because it's my corporation paying myself. But our accountant and our lawyer worked together to look at the average incomes and cost of living for where we are in Ehime, which is a very rural area, so that's a lower cost of living. But they put together a number that we had to put into our business plan then for my salary, and that's based on me supporting a dependent. So
Yeah.
you got to consider all of those things, and no, your spouse does not have to doesn't have to be involved.
Doesn't have to be involved, doesn't have to work. So technically it's called a dependent visa. So it can be a spouse, it can be a child, and I believe it can be your own elderly parents as well. So any dependent family member can apply for a dependent visa. So the 28-hour work restriction is that I could technically go get hired by a Japanese company if I felt like I had extra time in my days and needed a way to fill that. I could go get a part-time job from a Japanese company if I wanted to.
Her, as a spouse, she has no conditions on her employment other than the hourly restriction. But as a business manager, I'm restricted to only. I'm actually not sure if I'm only allowed to work for my own corporation, but I'm only allowed to work in the field that we've specified in our corporation. So, which is pretty broad. We had our lawyer write out, in our articles of incorporation, a very broad list of like areas that our corporation can, basically make money in, be involved in.
That's a really good point. I can't stress that enough. One of the best pieces of advice that we got when we were incorporating our business was that the articles of incorporation are expensive and time-consuming to rewrite. it can cost over $1,000 and it can take a couple of months. So if you want to earn income in a field that is not already listed on your articles of incorporation, you have to refile and have that income source listed. So we were told to brainstorm, write a massive laundry list of anything we might possibly ever want to do in the future and put that in our articles of incorporation from the get-go. So we have things like food cart, restaurant, packaged food like tamales, bottled food like hot sauce, consulting,
education, tourism.
Translation, tourism, lots of general like vague terms. So once a new opportunity comes up, we can go back and double check on our articles of incorporation and say, yeah, that fits under this general category, so we can legally earn that income.
And we can add to that too. And that's just
We
our
can,
lawyer.
but it takes a few months.
Yeah, it
and
costs money.
It's over $1,000 to refile.
Yeah. Real Japan says Danny's visa states she must work in the retro industry.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, they have a new lo-fi visa coming out.
Okay, and this is related. Marcus says, have you seen any info on daughter that's over 20 as far as being a dependent visa? That I'm not sure. I haven't looked into any age restrictions because that doesn't apply to us. That is an excellent question, and I'm sorry that we don't know the answer to that. I do know elderly parents can count if it meets certain requirements, so there may or may not be something for that. So let's move back up to the top. We've got a couple people who just said hi at the beginning that we didn't say hi to.
Stacy saying that's a tough word.
Oh.
This is where we're at.
There's a couple people above there. So hello to Dima. We are excited to see you too. I hope I'm saying that correctly. She's been very helpful. She's a moderator for other people who do YouTube live streams regularly. So she's been giving me some tips about how to get this going as a monthly thing. So thank you, Dima, for the conversations about how to get this going.
Sure.
And Patricia says, morning from Idaho. Glad you could make it too. Nice to see you. Let's see. Stacy says that's a tough hurdle. That's probably in response to us getting a 1-year visa. Lots of startup businesses take a while to get super profitable. Keep up the good work. You guys are always good for encouragement, so thank you for that. Let's see. Prodigal Inc. says, are you going for permanent residency? If so, what did the immigration lawyer say on expected timeline for that?
10 years.
10 years. Yeah, that's our end goal, would be permanent residency. We even have a plan in place for, on the tiny chance that we ever actually get citizenship. So we are going to, we don't ever want to move again. So we're here, we're putting everything we have, we essentially have already put everything we have into building our life and our business here. So we're not going anywhere if at all possible. So our plan would be permanent residency, and then eventually we would consider citizenship. Of course, there's a lot of considerations there because Japan doesn't allow dual citizenship. So if we ever become Japanese citizens, we would be revoking our U.S. citizenship, and that's part of the reason that, I'm not going to go into this right now, but that is essentially why we're working so hard to get permanent residency in Mexico as well, because if we ever revoke our U.S. citizenship, then Mexico would become our sort of fallback plan. All estimates usually say it's about 10 years before you can apply for permanent residency and be successful. But I've read stories of people who've done it earlier. I think those people are usually the more like highly skilled professional visa route, which we are not. So, yeah, anything to add there?
No.
Okay. Steve says, this probably means they have staff tasked to this business visa thing.
Why we got the quick response to our visa application.
Oh, could be. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, we just said we knew Steve Cunningham.
Yeah. Got us on the fast track. So we can skip all these goat ones. Jean-Claude says, hi, Jean-Claude. How many people is recommended to be under the Startup Business Manager visa? No more than 2? Or can you hire family members and sponsor their own visas using the profitable business?
I mean, I wouldn't say there's a recommendation, but I would say honestly, just one person, because if you only have one person, then you have no dependent requirements, which means you don't have to make any more money. Like we have to make more money because technically we have to be able to support Danny. So you're going to have an easier time of it if you only have one person to support, right? That's where's that go? You can't hire anyone. When you're getting started, I mean, I guess you can, but you have to still be profitable. So, but yeah, once you are profitable and you're in a position where you can hire, I suppose you can hire your family. I don't think there's any stipulation about that. But we spoke to some people recently who were trying to start a small restaurant here, and in Ōmishima Prefecture, which is different, I guess, in terms of what they have for the requirements, and they said that getting a startup visa for a restaurant in particular, you had to have employees, and I think those have to be Japanese employees. I'm not sure though.
Well, actually, I asked our immigration lawyer on their behalf about their situation for being told to hire employees, and the reason that our immigration lawyer said they were probably told that they had to have employees for their restaurant is that a business manager is supposed to focus on managing a business. So we don't have a sort of like staffed, like in their instance of operating a restaurant, the business manager would be the person actually there making the food, and that seems like an employee, so they should be hiring someone for that, is what they were told.
Seems like an employee, not a manager, so.
Yeah, so it's sort of like, must be another one of those like gray areas where there may be a way to like explain why the manager is the one actually making the food, or maybe they could hire the other spouse to be the one to do that,
And that seems a little strange from a Japanese perspective, I would just say, because all the businesses on our island are run by a husband and wife, so that's sort of the traditional model for the Japanese, business. But again, like the thing with the business manager visa is it's really geared more towards an established business overseas, sort of setting up a branch or a franchise or something like that in Japan, and it's not really geared towards just individuals coming up here and starting a business from scratch, which is what we're doing. But this new startup visa is it seems like they're trying to accommodate that more and more. You know, so again, we are really shoehorning our life choices into this visa, and it seems like they're trying to make it more accommodating to people like us and people who like you all who follow us. So
potentially, yeah. There's some concerns which we'll get into in a little bit after we answer these questions, but potentially it is going to be. They're trying to make it easier because they want more applicants and they want more successful applicants. So I wish there was some data on how many people applied for the startup visa and then how many people successfully received the business manager visa after the program. I have not been able to find any sort of data or numbers on that out there, which is unfortunate. But regardless, the reason that Japan has decided to start making these changes to the startup visa is that they want more people. So they want more foreign businesses here. So we got a couple more questions before we can move into that. Gerald Lang says, Just discovered you guys on Kevin's Just Japan podcast. Yes, Kevin's a cool guy. I've been to Japan for vacations, Kyoto, Gion District, Yoshima Inn Tea House, Osaka, Shinjuku. Interesting what you have living there. Thank you. Yeah, we, Evan lived in the big cities, but since we've been here for 2 years, we've pretty much almost 100% been in the countryside, so it's a very different Japan experience that we're going for. But you're welcome to come visit sometime. Maybe you could come check out the guest house if you're in the area. Okay, so moving down. Let's see. Oops. Steve says, farmland that isn't a genya cannot even get a shed built on it.
And that's back on the other, that's what we were talking about before, so.
Okay. Janae says, hi Janae. I'm wearing my PongCon shirt today. Janae is my friend from graphic design school, and she made me these adorable PongCon shirts. She's a super cute illustrator. She's got some great stuff.
Yeah, I should have worn mine.
He should have worn his. She gave us matching PongCon shirts. Matsukawa says Japan Land Use and Planning Act. I'm not sure what that's in.
He was talking about the farming stuff.
Oh, the
from
farm
earlier.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Debbie says hello from Canada. Hello from Japan.
Nikoashi says, great idea keeping the categories broad. Yeah, that wasn't our idea, to be honest. That was our lawyer, Shimizu's idea. So.
It was not our idea, but that was the best piece of advice I think we got on this whole process. So definitely recommend. Jean-Claude says the broad article thing sounds helpful and sound. Absolutely. Darren says, could you put house rental income through your company? Yes, we do.
Well, we do short-term rental, obviously, so
yeah.
Long-term, I'm sure we could.
Absolutely, yeah. So you know that we have gone through the process of getting 2 different rental licenses for the guest house here. We started with the Minpaku, and I won't go into this for very long. I've got to make a whole video about this, actually. So we started with the Minpaku license, which is actually only valid to rent out your house for 6 months out of the year. And we got that. It was recommended to us as being an easier process. And then once we received that, we actually said, you know what, we immediately need to go to the Ryokan license process. And when we got the Minpaku license, we got the license in Evan's name. And then we realized, well, that means that the Airbnb payments have to go to Evan's personal Japanese bank account, and then Benton Homestead has to invoice Evan each month in order to be reimbursed for the guest house income, which got to be really, really cumbersome. So when we got the Ryokan license, which is what we're operating under now, we were able to get the license in Benton Homestead's name. So Benton Homestead has the guest house Ryokan license, and Evan is listed as the operator. So now all of our guest house income can be deposited directly into the Benton Homestead bank account. I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but that has made our life just a little bit simpler. And I would imagine that, you know, you could put short-term rental, you could also put long-term rental. Because I know, Darren, you have an potential issue with having a short-term rental, something like you're 40 yards on the wrong side of a fence or something, so you can't have a short-term rental on your property. I hope you're able to find a workaround or get that resolved, but if not, I don't see why you could not have long-term rental income on your business. I don't think it would be treated any differently.
And then another question from Darren, did you have any official farming qualification that we mentioned in our initial application, and do you need that? I guess no, like any certificates or education farming-wise, no, neither of us had that. The good thing was that since Danny has been documenting our progress on social media since like 2016 or so in New Orleans, we had a lot of stuff to show. We had a lot of photos and videos of us doing farming stuff in New Orleans, so that was really helpful.
And selling our pickles and that sort of thing.
Right, yeah. So we did have a little bit of income and evidence that we had a farming business before, and that was helpful, and anything like that would be super helpful, and because Japan is very much certificate oriented. But the thing that was emphasized to us over and over again during our dealings with Imabari City is the narrative. So you really want to just craft a story of what you're doing and why you want to do it in Japan and that specific place that you're doing it, and that's the most important thing.
And that's for both the startup visa application as well as the application that goes to immigration. So you can submit supporting documents along with your formal government application. The startup visa application is a much more personable, one-on-one process where they really want to know who you are and why you want to live there and what you love about that location. And of course the visa application is just much more legal and structured and black and white, but you can also include supporting documents that just help support show who you are as a person and what your interests are. Now we've got a couple related questions. So Steve, Real Rural, Steve says, with the JA committee, which will conduct the interview with you, must be satisfied that you are responsible, etc., for the farming license. You interview with a panel of about 10 people. Farming license paperwork comes from City Hall. Fill it in, get your ducks in a row, and then attend the Gestapo committee. Haha.
His word, not ours.
Yeah. So
Steve, do you have any videos that you could share about that process? Because I think a lot of people are interested in farming here, and that would be really great to hear. Because the JA is a unique entity in Japan. It's sort of a hybrid government-private corporation type of a deal that is like a one-stop shop for all the farmers, where they do banking and insurance, and they sell you seeds, and they distribute your products. Like they'll buy your product and distribute it. So it's a really different, centralized marketing kind of structure that they have here in Japan. And on top of that, there's so many other committees. There's the local agriculture committee, and I don't even know how that all works. So I bet Steve has a lot more information on that he could share.
Well, Steve says, I have heaps of info on Patreon, but not on my channel. So Steve with Real Rural Japan, he's got 8 videos on his Patreon about getting the farmer's license. So he's doing really good sharing this information. Pop over to his channel, Real Rural Japan, and it'll have a link to his Patreon, so you can go get this more detailed information from him over there.
And in general, and in Japan in general, you'll hear a lot of if something goes sort of outside of the coloring outside of the lines in Japan, they'll just tell you no, you can't. They absolutely can't. But if you're willing to do the legwork, there's almost always a workaround where you can. So I had heard that the over 40 thing for a farmer was a real deal breaker, but I'm sure, if it's a matter of a committee, deciding that thing, then yeah, there's always going to be a workaround. So maybe Steve can shed some light on that too.
So bouncing back to Darren's question about property, he said, sorry to clarify, his question was about owning foreign property income, not property in Japan, under the business manager visa. That I don't know. That would definitely be a question for an immigration lawyer. It seems to me, my guess would be that would count as your personal income, which you would probably have to declare here in Japan when you file your personal and your business taxes. So that might help establish that you yourself are more financially stable beyond just what your business income is here in Japan. So, but I can't expand on that because I have no idea. Definitely talk to an immigration lawyer about that.
I think it would I think it would qualify because the issue with the Japanese corporation is earning income in Japan. So if you had something in like the is it Malaysia, right? And you wanted to just like channel that income into your Japanese corporation. I mean, from what I understand about corporate law, like you could do that in the United States, right? You can have a United States corporation that makes money overseas. So why couldn't you have a Japanese corporation make money overseas, right? And then you could probably make that work, but I can't say for certain.
Okay, so Jean-Claude says, thanks for the earlier answer. What are some things that might not get a visa renewal? Is there a minimum profitable number they want to see, especially the first and initial years?
No, it's all based on that game of chicken we mentioned earlier. It's just you coming up with a plan and then you following that plan.
Yeah, so many things about the process are just structured. You either meet the requirement or you do not meet the requirement. But when it comes to the income of the business manager, there is no handy chart to go reference and say, this amount is going to be accepted and this amount is going to be rejected. That doesn't exist. So it's really about writing your business plan, meeting your own business plan, and being able to earn enough income for your business to pay the business manager a salary, as well as that once you start paying the business manager's salary, there's all kinds of additional fees and taxes.
Pension and social insurance, they call it, and healthcare.
Yeah, so once you start, the business, which is you, starts paying the business manager, which is also you, the salary, you have to pay the business side and the personal side of a lot of those different social programs in Japan. So it's huge. I think we're paying an additional like $500 or $700 a month because we're paying both sides, business and personal, and those things have to be paid into the National Japan Services as soon as the business manager starts receiving a salary, and the salary is a requirement of the business manager visa. So the most important thing is they do not have a set baseline number, but you have to be able to pay all those things and still be a profitable business.
And so immigration doesn't give you any feedback, right? They only tell you yes or no. So, we really don't know what they liked about our proposal, and we really can't answer what would have gotten us kicked out of the country. But basically, my understanding is just not making that money is what's going to get you is what's going to get you not renewed.
So we have two more questions about farming, which we really wanted to cover the startup visa. So we'll answer these two questions real quick, and then we're only going to focus on startup and business manager visa questions. But I want to answer these. So Nekoashi says, is there a minimum size of plot of land to qualify as farming? For example, if you wanted to buy a very small lot for a kitchen garden. I would not know the answer to that, but it looks like Steve has said Nagano is 10,000 square meters is the minimum for a farmer's license. So thanks, Steve, for that information. I would not have known how to answer that. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, but that's off topic, so.
Okay. And then CB says, is there much regulation on seeds? We're going to make a video about this soon also, because we did go through the process of importing seeds through the USDA and then through Japan's version of the USDA. So there is heavy regulation, and now that we are buying seeds from Japan, Evan's going through this process mostly, but what we're finding is that some seed companies have like a import license agreement already in place, so you can order some seeds from like European seed companies, and then they'll get shipped to you here in Japan. It's easiest to buy from a Japanese seed company because then it's not crossing any borders, but Evan will have a little bit more to add to that.
So the process is called a phytosanitary certification, inspection and certification, and so you have to you have to take it to a government official, which in the United States I think is the USDA, or no, it's agriculture. It's Department of Agriculture, and they inspect the seeds and make sure there's no bugs and whatnot. And there's a whole list. You know, you have to look up the species on the list of what the requirements are and what they're looking for. And so in Japan here, I can get anything imported as long as it's not banned, which a small number of species are banned outright, you know, for various reasons. But the thing is that they're going to charge you well, not every seed company is willing to ship overseas, but those that are typically going to charge you a per species fee to do all the paperwork, because each species requires its own inspection and paperwork. So that costs a lot of money, and it can be $100 per species. So
and they do actually count each seed. They count the number of seeds when they arrive. It's very, very, very detailed.
But then in terms of selling your own seeds in Japan, no, I think you're fine with that. Maybe Steve can answer that. But I mean, that's what we're interested in, because in the farming aspect, which again, this is not what we're trying to talk about today, but I think that, seed saving and breeding plants is super important. So we're hoping to be able to get to, we're focusing on peppers, and we're hoping to be able to get some good pepper varieties that are adapted to our climate. So
Steve says, farming license inspections occur every 5 years in my area. This is to make sure that you are not using the land for other purposes. That's also really good to know. I've had that question about how they can check on that. I didn't know the frequency, or if it was just surprise visits.
Yeah, we had a hiccup where we had our honeybee, one of the places that our honeybees are on, one of our two bee yards, apiaries, is technically farmland. And so when we first got our business manager visa, and we went through the process of getting that a full-on official lease for 0 yen to be able to use that, they had to come out and consult with the local agricultural committee, not JA, and they said, actually, no, you can't put any bees on that because it's in a protected agriculture zone. So they're trying to make sure that you only use that for agriculture, and
bees aren't agriculture.
And as a result of that, it's not being used. So that that's a story that we've heard. It's a story that's as old as time, right? But anyway.
So just to finish the seed question, Patricia says, so can you bring seeds with you rather than ordering? Do they still need to be inspected? If you bring seeds with you, you need a certificate that they've been inspected from your home country. They will talk with Japan's seed inspection people, and when you land at the airport, either before or after you go through customs, you immediately have to go to the seed inspection facility at the airport, and then sit and wait for them to count and inspect your seeds and make sure they match up to the list that you brought with from your home country. That's the last farming question for now, so I hope that answered your question. Obviously, farming is a huge, huge topic. We get tons and tons of questions about how farming and the startup visa works here, so we've really we'll focus on that another time. I appreciate all your farming questions. We've got one, let's move on to Matsukawa says, if you have a company elsewhere, you can expand the business into Japan by opening another location for the original business. Oh, I guess that's a statement, not really a question.
But exactly, that's what we've been trying to say. Like, the business manager visa is, and he was talking about, I think, to make an income off of a foreign corporation or off of a foreign property. But that's the whole point of the business manager visa. That's the most streamlined kind of way to do it, and anything else is, what people are ending up using it for, which is sort of unintended. But now they're trying to alter the legislation, I would say, and alter the policies to sort of be more accommodating to people like that.
Okay, so another startup question. Dallas says, is it easier to get approved for the startup visa or the business manager visa? For instance, if I already have the required capital and a place scouted out for an office, would I be better off applying for the business manager visa? Now, I have an answer for this. we obviously only have experience going the startup to business manager path. We have not gone directly to the business manager. From what I understand, please verify this with an immigration lawyer, but from what I understand, if you go directly to business manager visa, you only get 4 months to start out, which technically you only get 2 or 3 months because you have to apply for your extension 30, 60, or 90 days prior to your visa ending. So if you have 4 months and you apply 90 days before your visa ends, guess what? That's only 1 month to get everything established. I have no idea how that would be possible to meet all the requirements personally. So is it done? Yes, I'm sure it is because the visa exists. But we had 6 months, and so we applied for our extension at the 5-month mark. And we barely made it. Like we were working every day, like sun up to well after dark, and we barely got everything taken care of in 5 months. I have no idea how it could be done any less. So personally, but again, could be biased because this is my experience. I think going the startup visa route is easier because you get a little more time. And as we're going to start discussing now, you might get even more time than we had, which, it says now a maximum of up to 2 years. But also, because our startup visa application process was through the city of Imabari, we went through all these meetings with city officials to revamp our business plan, make sure it was great, it was something that would fit with the community and what they wanted. They gave us a letter of recommendation that they accept our business plan and they want us in Imabari City, and that letter goes with our visa application to immigration. So basically they read that letter and they say, okay, Imabari City wants them, sure. It's not like 100% guaranteed, but it really, really, really makes it unlikely that they would reject.
Well, our lawyer did say it's not 100% guaranteed, but it's a very... He said it's basically a rubber stamp once you get that approval, like letter of recommendation from the city.
Yeah, so the startup visa is in place specifically to make it easier for the transition period, and I believe immigration also looks more favorably on startup visa applications because you've already jumped through a bunch of hoops to get to that point. Darren says, I must admit writing the business plan is super scary as it seems everything hinges on that being well written. It's very true. And
Real Rural Japan says, always hire someone, Darren, and that is the correct answer.
Yes, that is the correct answer. Good job, Steve. Thank you.
But, so just to clarify, because this is something that we weren't clear about either, is that when you're taking your business plan to the city or whoever, it's not like you're just submitting it and then you get a yes or no answer. What really happens is there's this long back and forth that they want to work with you. They want you. I mean, these people. This is like Steve mentioned earlier. They're hiring people just to get to help you, right? So there's going to be, in our case, we had a business manager, and the city also hired a business manager, and they work for the same. They're both like independent contractors, but they work together. They work for a business manager association or something like that, like a professional group. And so every time that we have a meeting, we're paying our guy to be there, and the city's paying their guy to be there, and it's almost like a courtroom kind of a thing, but it's really this negotiation back and forth. And then they're going out and they're having coffee and they're talking about us, and they're saying what's going to get our proposal accepted, right? So it's not what we're used to. It's not how you start a business in your home country. But that's what's going to happen is you're going to come to the city with your proposal, and they're going to like certain things about it, and they're going to dislike certain things about it, and they're going to tell their guy, and their guy's going to tell your guy, and then your guy's going to rewrite it to make it all get accepted, and yeah.
So short answer, hire professionals. Japanese professionals know what the Japanese immigration wants, and it definitely will save you some heartache and some potential issues. So, what were we going to? Gerald wants to know, there's a quick answer to this one. Is the local government more strict on the regulations, inspections, visas, etc., being that you guys are foreigners compared to locals with businesses? So, well, first of all, locals would not have to worry about visas. The only people who need visas here are foreigners. But is the local government more strict on regulations and inspections? I would say they're more helpful. They really want to make sure that you understand what's going on. So some might see it as like they're hovering, or there might be more attention on you because you are a foreigner, and so more eyes are looking at you to make sure you're doing it right. But you can take that a couple different ways, and I choose to look at it as they're trying to make sure that you understand. So I don't think they're more strict, but you might get a couple extra phone calls, and I think it's just them making sure, like, hey, they're thinking these guys aren't from Japan. They might not know what all the procedures are. So let's just make sure they fully understand everything moving forward, and then once you pass a couple of tests and get a couple of gold stars, and you have some inspections and everything's good, then I think it's just going to be the same as everybody else. Okay. It's 8:55, and we have 2 questions here from Saab in Singapore about the startup visa. Then at 9 o'clock, we're going to switch over, and so we got 5 minutes before we talk about the startup visa changes. So let's just answer Saab's questions, and then we'll hop over to that. So hi from Singapore. Hello.
So Steve makes a point here about what we were just talking about. The thing to understand is that the government officials want to be seen to do their job well. So they will be more thorough, make them look good, and all will go well.
That's a really good point, yeah.
So, yeah, work with your local officials and make them look good, and yes, doors will be opened up for you. And that includes, subsidies, more business opportunities. Like, we're finding that, people are coming to us, private people, like other business people in the area, and also just the governments, and they're saying, hey, there's some opportunities for you, and that's something that never, I don't think, would have happened in Louisiana, But yeah, so look at it that way, like work with the government officials and realize that, as Steve said, they want to look good, like. And at Imabari City, the people who worked with us to get our business manager visa, they want us to be successful because it makes them look good, and not just because it makes us look good. But if they can take that to their manager, to their boss, they're gonna be seen as an asset, right?
Oh, well, for example, so we are in the process. We're in the middle of 2 things right now. Just real briefly, we're applying for a subsidy for small businesses in our area to improve and expand their new businesses. So we're applying for a subsidy to get a second toilet and some other work done here at the guest house. And then we're also applying for a small bank loan to cover the cost of getting a new roof on the guest house garage, so we can start turning that into a shop. And the roof is the most expensive part, and the part that we can't do ourselves. So we're applying for a small bank loan for that.
Danny won't let me do ourselves.
Yeah. But they explained at the bank that, of course they want to help you. They want to help us because we're bank customers, but also because we are a foreign business. They can then advertise that they helped a foreign business, a foreign couple, get a bank loan, and so that in turn helps them look better. So just a little piece there.
Yeah, we're not very business savvy. Danny is much more business savvy than I am. But I went to the I asked the bank manager, I mean, how much should we ask for? And he said, basically, I mean, I work for the bank, so I want you to ask for as much money as, as you can,
Yeah, we think we've decided we're probably just going to ask for the cost of the roof itself, because anything you apply for, you have to have like a plan in place for how you spend that loan. And again, we're off topic here, but so we have a quote from a contractor, and we can say we're borrowing this much, and then we're going to give that directly to the contractor. But yeah, we're sort of going back and forth with them and trying to figure out, well, should we borrow a little extra to help cover the cost of the shikumi plaster and painting a cute little mural on the front and whatever, so it's just, seems like it's a matter of paperwork, because then we would have to, find evidence for how much we're going to spend on this and how much we're going to spend on that. And so it's like, well, what do we have time for? What can our business consultant help us with on that end of it? Do we do that ourselves? Do we have time to do that? So it's a lot of questions. But at the minimum, we're going to be applying for a loan for the amount of getting a new roof on the guest house.
Yeah, and so back to the Saab from Singapore's questions, but so just first of all, Gerald's got a good point there, and Real Rural Japan's got another good point on that same topic of just everyone wanting to work together. So read those, but we're not going to respond to those because we're going to get back to the question, which is, hi from Singapore. I've tried to find this information online, but it's really vague. If one is already working in Japan in another field, is it still possible to apply for a startup visa?
Oh.
Yeah, like if you're
I think so.
Yeah, it is because it's a different visa. So the visa just lets you live in the country, okay? And if you have a visa, you can get a bank account, you can start a corporation. So like I guess the canonical example would be you're an English teacher in Japan, and you want to start whatever you want to start. And so yeah, you just would do that while you're in Japan before your first visa expires, and when you do that in your free time, right? You get a new you contact a lawyer, or if you can do that on your own, if your Japanese level is enough, yeah, you can definitely do that.
No, the internet does like to tell you that you can't change your visa status from within Japan, but we did it, and actually I found it a little funny that when we walked into the immigration office, it must happen a lot because they had like a hand-drawn sign that says, this is how to complete your change of residency status form, which is for people it probably happens that people go from like student to a working visa, or this visa to that visa, and we were going from a tourist visa to Evan's business manager visa, and then I was going from tourist visa to a dependent visa, and it was just a matter of filling out the paperwork at immigration. So whether or not someone who already lives here can apply for the startup visa, though, that I'm not 100% sure on, but it does seem like it would be possible, because you would be talking about starting your own business, and then you would change from your current visa to that visa. But that is a question for an immigration lawyer. I'm gonna say probably.
Yeah, just reach out to Shimizu-san. He'll help you answer that really quickly. And another question on the flip side: do you know anyone who lost their visa even while meeting the short-term milestones? No, but the thing is, so do we know any horror stories? We have not heard any horror stories. The thing is that as this gets more expanded and more people do this, people are gonna fail, and you gotta just realize that. We're only the second people to get the startup visa. We might have been the first. They weren't sure. They couldn't tell us if we were the first people or the second people to successfully get the startup visa.
In Imabari City.
In Imabari City. So we're very much, guinea pigs or pioneers in this whole experiment. And the thing you have to realize is on the internet, there is no dislike button. So on social media, everyone's going for the dopamine hits. They're not going to tell you if they fail. I mean, if they think they can make a clickbait headline saying, I failed to start a business in Japan, but
Well, the thing is that the entire reason that we started this channel is because I couldn't find any positive or negative stories about the startup visa. I couldn't find any success stories, and I couldn't find any failure stories. So literally that was the catalyst for why we started documenting a lot of this and making these videos, and then it's just like snowballed a little bit because we get good feedback from you guys. You guys want this kind of information as much as I did at the time and still do.
Yeah, but even with all this information we're putting out, and if you do what we're doing, you're still going to be like the number 3 person. You know what I mean? So you're still going to have plenty of unanswered questions. So there's just no way to avoid that. So.
And one last question, another one we get a lot is Japanese language ability, minimum level before applying. Someone asked me this also in a comment just a day or two ago. And there is no like official level. You know, they have the JLPT language test, which we're still waiting to get Evan's results. We took that test a long time ago. You don't have to like submit a formal, I've passed this test, this is my Japanese language ability, but I don't think I could have completed this process with my language ability, which is almost none. I don't think someone with my language ability would be accepted as well by the community. I think that when a foreigner like comes up to a Japanese person with a translator app or something like that, like at first it's sort of seen as like cute and a novelty, and they're happy to like use this technology to have a conversation for a little while. After a while, you can see how that would be viewed as a burden by the community and the business people and the people you're working with and your customers, you know, so I know that's sort of a vague answer, because I don't want to say...
There is no requirement, but the residency system, at least for permanent residency, is points-based. And so you get points for working in specific fields, and you get points for having a specific level of higher education. And with the JLPT, which is a government-run Japanese language proficiency test, you get points for how high you score on that. There's 5 levels. And so that is the reason that I took that test. Is not because I want to, tell people how great I am at Japanese, but because it counts towards our immigration process.
Steve says he has to learn English properly first. I don't know. I can't come up with a joke. I'm not a quick-witted person. But
I feel sorry for the guy.
Steve's Australian, man. I don't know all the lingo. You got a lot of cool lingo, Steve. Okay, so we've reached the end of the questions. We're just past an hour out of our 2 hours. So let's move over to discussing what the actual changes are with the startup visa. So hopefully some of you did your homework and you watched the video, or you've been, reading official documents and not sensationalized news stories about the startup visa changes. So what we know is that 2-minute summary here. The startup visa has been around for less than a decade. The startup visa has previously been 2 separate organizations that have their own separate startup visa business incubation for foreigners program. One is called National Strategic Special Zones, and one is called METI. Those are the 2 programs overseeing the 2 different startup visas that were both called the startup visa. National Strategic Special Zones was 6 months, and then you followed by 1 year of business manager visa, and the METI program was 1 year. So that, I didn't really realize that prior to doing all the research to make the video that I put out earlier this week, but that answers the question about why it was so difficult to find a complete list of startup visa locations, because it was actually 2 separate programs. So only people like Japan Remotely, he had a great page on his website that combined all the startup visa locations into one. I wasn't really able to find anywhere else online a complete list of all the startup visa locations because they're two separate programs. But, so what we know now is that for the duration of 2024, Japan was working behind the scenes and saying, we want more foreigners, we want more foreign businesses, we want more people applying for the startup visa, we want more people successfully achieving business manager visa and staying in Japan after the startup visa. What do we need to change because we're unhappy with these numbers and we want more? So I think they did a really good job, from what we can tell so far, of answering some serious concerns and things that made our experience stressful, obviously not impossible, but they answered some concerns that would have made our experience less stressful. So they have stated that they are going to make the startup visa 2 years maximum. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We don't actually know if it's going to just be you're given 2 years, because they continually specify 2 years maximum. And it's possible, we're waiting for some details to come out, but I've read a couple of documents that sort of make it sound like it might be 6 months that is renewable up to 2 years. So it might not just be a flat out 2-year visa. That's something I was actually looking at after recording my startup visa video and sort of preparing to talk about today. The other change they're making is simplifying the process, so you'll only be dealing with one governing agency instead of sort of flip-flopping and dealing with a couple. And they're also working with banks in Japan to make it easier for foreigners to get bank accounts, having been in the country for less than 6 months. That's not a problem that we had. Our bank and our bank manager have been incredibly helpful to us. And we, of course, had to jump through the hoops that are required for anyone to open a bank account in Japan. But I have received emails from numerous people who received the startup visa and then were not allowed to open a bank account and had to go to many, many different banks before they were finally allowed to open an account. So I think this was a bigger problem in some of the bigger cities that maybe have more foreigners to deal with. Maybe we got lucky because we have just an extra nice bank manager. Maybe it's because we were literally the first foreign people to open a bank account on our island. I don't know what was at play there. I did not know that that was a potential hardship until people started emailing me and say, how did you get a bank account? We can't get a bank account even though I've received the startup visa. So they're simplifying the process and they're trying to work to bridge the gap with other private sectors to make it easier. And the third, of course, the biggest thing that people are most excited about is that it's going to be nationwide. At some point soon, it is going to be available anywhere in Japan, which is incredible. Like, that's huge. I don't know. I do sort of like that it was only available in certain areas because that helped us narrow down and decide on our area. It was very helpful because, you know, when you have the whole country, where do you choose? Because everywhere's great, you know. So it being only available in specific areas did help in Evan's research when he was spending all his time trying to find our perfect climate, our perfect location, our perfect tourism numbers, everything that we wanted that led us directly to Ōmishima Island. But it's huge. You know, a lot of people want to move to Japan and live in a different area, so soon it will be available nationwide. You've been reading the questions. Anything I should jump to specifically?
Oh no, we had another question about a language test, and Darren answered it. So yeah,
Okay.
you don't. It doesn't make you get your residency any faster. It's just, again, it's a points-based system.
Mm-hmm. So Steve says this bank problem happens because people don't network and talk with the right people. That's very possible. I don't know because I'm only going off of what other people tell me.
Yeah, again, it's a cultural thing with Japan where if it gets too hard, they're just going to tell you no.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you just have to. I mean, again, I speak enough Japanese that I can come across as someone that is like worth taking the time to do, taking the time to work with, and also just our bank manager is a super nice guy.
Yeah,
so,
I think they get really intimidated when they see a foreigner walk in.
Well, we know.
They're,
we know.
They're like, oh my gosh, how hard is this going to be? What do we do?
Yeah, so I mean, we've I don't know, we've hung out with our bank manager a couple times, and since we've been in the country almost 2 years now, and he mentioned to us confidentially that when we first came in, he was like, "What am I gonna do? I don't speak English. What am I gonna do for these people?" So he was scared, and he was relieved that we could work with him.
As an observer, because I was not able to I can just barely understand. I'm there with Evan watching this happen, but it's all happening in Japanese, so I'm just sort of trying to figure out what's going on. You can physically see how much stress is removed when Evan starts writing in Japanese to fill out the forms. They're just like, wow, okay, I think they expect to have to fill out every form for you, and so his language ability definitely helped us in that area too.
Yeah, I did study writing kanji, so that's the thing is with the language is they don't. It's weird. I don't want to say weird, but it's Japanese people have a real sense of their own uniqueness in the world. And so I've told this story before, but when I came here as a high schooler when I was 14, and I stayed with a host family, and they made, actually it was oden, and they had a microwave hamburger, and they thought that they were going to give me the microwave hamburger, and when they said, "Do you want the hamburger or do you want the Japanese food?" I said Japanese food, and they're like, "What?" They were really shocked, and so the dad ate the microwave hamburger. So when you tell them that you like Japanese food, it's Japanese food is great, and they're just blown away. And when they don't expect you to speak Japanese, they don't expect you to know where to take your shoes off and things like that. So
they don't expect you to like natto.
Yeah, and so they're really happy. They I don't know, that I feel like that.
Yeah, we get what you're saying. Dallas asks Evan, if you don't mind me asking, what level of JLPT did you take?
I took the level 3,
which is right in the middle.
So it used to be there used to be only 4, and now they added a 5th level, which I think is sub beginner, just to try and onboard people onto the system. So there's but for me, I took 3 years of Japanese in college. So for me, when I took that, level 4 was the lowest, and so there's kind of no point in me taking a level 4. But
and you tried level 3 just because part of the reason was that he didn't have any time to study, so he thought that 3 would be a good starting point just to get a certificate. So if he could pass 3, then
yeah, and I'm not super confident that I passed. I mean, I feel like it was the test that I should have taken, but I think I got 75%, so if 70% is the cutoff, then I think I probably passed. But yeah, it was a tough test for me.
We got some comments about natto. Apparently it's not very popular.
No, natto's great, y'all. Natto kines too. It helps with the whatever it helps with, I'm not sure, but
I like it 50% of the time. Sometimes I eat it and I'm like, oh, I love it, and then sometimes just the smell is just revolting. So I don't know what it is.
Wrong.
I don't know. Okay, so we're out of questions for a minute. So here's what we don't know about the startup visa. I made a couple of points in my video, and I've added to them here so we can sort of have a discussion here, and let me know if you have other questions about what we do or we don't know about the new startup visa changes. So we know that the changes to the program have been laid out, available as of January 1st, 2025. But what appears to be happening is that no new locations throughout all of Japan are offering it yet. There's only a few places that we've found that are currently offering it, and that would be the one example I have, I believe is called Kure City, and it was already formerly part of the program. It was already offering the 6-month startup visas, and they've changed their program to the 2 years. And what I read was that the former program, the National Strategic Special Zones program, there's a very easy, officially laid out document that I talked about in my video and highlighted a few spots that says the National Strategic Special Zone program is still allowed to operate until the end of 2025 with the new 2-year rules before it gets absorbed before being absorbed by the new nationwide METI program. So it doesn't say that they have to operate until the end of 2025. It says that they can operate until the end of 2025 if they choose. So at some point between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2025, all of the National Strategic Special Zone areas are going to, maybe slowly, maybe all at once, fall under the new METI program nationwide. So the METI program, which was one of the 2 previously offering it, they are taking control of the program as it gets launched throughout the whole country. So I know it's complicated, and I hope I'm explaining it somewhat clearly, but so far the only places that are offering the 2-year visa are the places that were previously offering a 6-month visa. And I did not go through the list to verify if all of them were. We're just using Kure City as an example. So the biggest question is, how long is it going to take the new locations to get with the new program? That has not been answered. Thank you, Nekoashi. We have to drop off now. Thanks so much for the helpful info. Always welcome. Always good to talk to you guys. See you soon. So, what we do know about how long it might take for new locations to start popping up, our immigration lawyer, when I was talking to him about this and asking him what details do you have any documents you can direct me to directly, he shared with me a story of one of his new clients, who's actually somebody that we've been talking with online. He said his new client wants to apply for the new 2025 startup visa in his location, which is not a location that offered it before. He's in the capital city of his prefecture, so it's not like, a tiny mountain village isn't prepared. This is the capital city of the prefecture. They said they did not have the program implemented. Check back in a few months, and it might be at least April before they're accepting applications. So it's pretty much verified that the changes went into effect January 1st, but everyone is still sort of, getting their programs implemented. And the point that I want to make is not, well, that's bad. The point that I want to make is that makes perfect sense, because they're dealing with people's visas, they're dealing with people's businesses, they're dealing with people's livelihoods. Can you imagine, probably a whole new department has to be made, but at least people have to be hired and trained. There's a lot going on behind the scenes in order to get something like this going, because I personally saw the amount of work that Imabari City did on our behalf to help get us ready. So for a place to start a whole new program like this, I'm pretty sure they just started getting ready as of January 1st. So what we, based on all this research, think is going to happen, this is our best guess, this is not factual, but this is based on what we're seeing, is that slowly over the course of the year, hopefully sooner rather than later, each place will slowly start coming online and saying, okay, we're ready, now we're ready over here. But we still don't know if the startup visa is going to be prefecturally based. So will the new startup visa department be in each of the 47 prefectures? Or will each little city, big city, town, and village each have to create their own startup visa department?
Or both.
Or both. So that has not been answered. That is not clear. Are we looking for 47 new departments, or are we looking for literally hundreds or thousands of new departments?
Yeah, it's probably going to be, I'm speculating, but I think it's probably going to be in situations like Imabari City where they already had a program. They're not going to do away with the program, but so there's probably going to be a prefectural as well as a local. And if you were to apply in Ehime, you'd go through Ehime, and if you wanted to be in Imabari City specifically, or Matsuyama City specifically, they'd probably channel you down to those local departments.
Yeah, but that's also a guess, so we don't know. I know it would have been more difficult for us if it was only prefectural based. We live pretty far from our prefecture's capital, so
let's say Darren's point. He says points on the permanent residency are only given for N1 and N2. So, I didn't know that, but that makes sense given what I know about N2 being a big jump from N3, and so N2 is supposed to be basically fluent, and then N1 is fluent at like a college-educated Japanese. So I'm pretty far from that. But the point I would make is that that's for the permanent residency, and so if you're going for a renewal on your startup visa, on your business manager visa, I'm thinking that since basically the way it works is your lawyer puts together a big package of supporting documents. If I have a certificate that says I passed the N3, I think that'll, curry some favor with the official that day.
yeah, every little bit helps. So our first business manager visa extension application, our lawyer submitted over 20 supporting documents, and they were things like news articles about us. We got in our prefecture's biggest newspaper, we're volunteering with local kids, singing songs and reading English books, just saying, well, he passed the JLPT language test level 3, that would just be a supporting document in his favor, as opposed to like actually points for the permanent residency. But that's good to know. And his plan was, if he passed the N3, then he'd eventually study and take the N2 as well. So
Let's go to Patricia's question, because we got two people saying that they're interested in it, and I think you're going to answer this. I think you're planning to answer this one later on, but we can probably just jump to it.
Mm-hmm.
So she says, does it basically mean they're opening up the types of businesses you can open? For example, Gifu offered IT and tourism, but now you could open up pretty much anything, and I think that's a yes and no kind of a question. That's a concern that we have. So
that's one of our other biggest questions. And this was also brought up to me by Japan remotely in a discussion that we had that I hadn't really thought of. And then once I read what he wrote to me, my wheels started turning, and I realized, that is a massive question that has not been answered. So for those not aware, the former startup visa programs, both National Strategic Special Zones and the former METI program, each area that they were offered got to come up with their own sort of, not rules, but they got to come up with, they were allowed the freedom to specialize a little bit. So certain areas were specifically targeting technology, certain areas want tourism. They would say, this is a list of the kinds of businesses that we will accept startup visa applications for. So that's another thing that we got, really lucky with, that we wanted Imabari City specifically, because they were perfectly willing to accept a farming and tourism based business. But some places like Kyoto, for example, I'm pretty sure they're very particular about just wanting certain technology based businesses. So now that this program is shifting to a nationwide program, are individual areas still going to be allowed that freedom to say, we are a rural area, we want farming businesses. We are perfectly happy if you start a coffee shop, or is it going to be national rules saying, Japan as a country wants technology, we want, IT, we want high-tech stuff, we want AI, are there going to be like a national, do you know what I'm saying? It's a big question.
Yeah, so I think, the short answer is just that if you're applying to a location that was previously very lenient, there's a good chance that it might be made more strict. And if you're applying to a location that was previously very strict, there's a good chance that it could be more lenient. So the national requirements are probably going to be somewhere in between the extremes of the local areas. But there are so few, startup locations that it's going to open up a lot of areas.
Steve says he thinks it will be city-based and signed off at a prefectural level. That could be. Now I know they said one of their big points is that they're trying to streamline and simplify things. So I don't know. You have worked in immigration, Steve, so you would have a better educated guess than I would. But I think at this point nothing has specifically been announced, so it's still a big question. Let's see. Well, media will help. Oh, okay. FPC Football says, did Imabari City, when they were meeting you all, point to a language school, or did they make you aware of any locally held classes?
Well, they pointed us across the street to the Immigration Assistance Bureau, whatever it was called, and so we went over there and talked to that lady. She was super nice, and she was able to help us with like a lot of different sort of activities that they were doing to help immigrants. And one of those was free language lessons that were online. And then Danny did just look this up last night because she's thinking about applying. And what did you learn?
I haven't gotten an email back from them, but they did, at least for the year 2024, they had free Japanese language classes with a one-on-one mentor 2 times a month. So they said to apply by email, so I put that out there, and I will be starting those classes as soon as I get a response. If they're still offering them, I'm not certain on that.
And did you apply to the same?
It's the same office, that same nice lady, yeah. Steve says, the available staff is more readily available in the city offices. That is my reasoning, and that makes sense. And I would hope, my hope is that the startup visa will be available. Your support system staff would be at the local city hall. That would just make the life of the startup applicant so much easier. I just think even, regulations change city by city, even in the same prefecture, for various business things. I think it would be just more difficult if it's on a prefectural level. But all of this is just conjecture anyways. We're not really sure. We're just trying to make educated guesses, and we'll see how things play out over the year.
Pietro's got a related question. Any ideas on which industries the Japanese government will give you a better chance of getting a visa approval? And Matsukawa's got a good answer to that up above there. So he says they're looking for tech startups and rural revitalization, and I'd probably emphasize the tech startup. I mean, everything's going towards AI right now. It's the fourth industrial revolution is what some people call it. That's what. So if you're into that sort of thing, that's probably going to be your best bet.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that information is specifically coming from.
Well, when we were looking up the startup visas, most of these programs said, mention tech as being...
Oh, absolutely, but so, I don't know that they've specifically said that the changes are to focus on tech.
He's not talking about changes, though. He's just saying...
He says the new change is to help increase tech startups.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Matsukawa is correct with that information, or I'm not sure where he's getting that information. Maybe you could share a link. Yeah, he says you can get a reference. Please do.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I'm just commenting in general with the way the global economy is going, Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I felt is, Something that I felt since we lived in Mexico, and I felt that doing an import-export business is one of the most straightforward models you could follow. And we've talked to a lot of people, and I'm partially just because I want to get like Mexican food here, but also just because it seems like from what I'm gathering, like that's the most straightforward thing. Like especially as a Japanese person viewing a foreigner, they're going to say, okay, like if you go to a Japanese person and I don't know, Pietro, if you're Italian and you say, I am from Italy, I have some cheese, I would like to sell cheese in Japan, they're going to be like, yes, we love cheese. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing is really, really straightforward. And then again, as we answered before, like setting up, bringing another business that already exists in a foreign country and just establishing a branch.
Yeah, well, FBC Football says taco shops are in short supply in Japan, sadly. Open a taco shop. I think it would be fantastic.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
we're growing
We're
Mexican
working on it,
ingredients.
buddy. We're working on it.
We're trying.
I just got some corn. Check out I got some Hokkaido Hachiretsu 8-row corn that I'm gonna grow, and my friend online, Fiesta Farms Japan, has confirmed for me that they are using that somewhere to make tortillas.
Yes. Slowly but surely. April, good luck with your adventure if you decide to do something like this. She says she's looking for a new location in 2025. Pietro says thank you. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks to everybody hanging out here. And
Pietro, are you Italian? Can you give us Parmesan cheese? I mean, we will pay.
Okay, so other things we don't know. We don't know if it will be at the municipality or the prefectural level, which also means we don't know how people apply. We don't know if it will be the same process that we went through, applying directly to Imabari City, and then you take their letter of recommendation and take that to immigration. We don't know if the application process is going to be the same or if that will be revamped and simplified also. We don't know if they apply directly to the municipality, if the application process will be with the prefecture, or if the application process will be handled by some national department that doesn't exist yet. So we don't know how people will apply, we don't know when people will be able to submit applications, and we don't know who they're going to submit applications to. So our current best recommendation is to keep an eye on both the city and the prefectural government page, the official city and the official prefecture page of the place that you want to apply. Check that website all the time. It might just be like a little tiny bullet point that they're ready to accept applications. They might have, a new startup page launched that they didn't have before because they weren't a part of the program, obviously. So check those websites all the time. Just save them as a bookmark. Check them every Monday morning with your cup of coffee. Sit down and check and see if there's been any changes on the city website and the prefecture website of where you want to live. Third would be talk with an immigration lawyer. Have an immigration lawyer help you with this process. As soon as any announcement comes out for your area, they can let you know that you're ready to start applying or you're ready to start applying. So check the local pages of the place you want to apply. Check the national page to see if there's any sort of list of municipalities that are ready. I haven't been able to find a list like that yet. Of course, if I find any resource like that, I'll be sharing it with you. And reach out, make a connection with the immigration lawyer you're going to use. We recommend ours. Shimizu-san is incredible. If you reach out to him and let him know that you want to apply for the startup visa when it's available in a certain area, he can contact them and then let you know once they are ready to submit or receive applications. Two other things that we don't know about the startup visa. The check-in process and the actual process of the up to 2 years maximum. What does that mean? So when we received a 6-month startup visa, we had requirements during the 6 months that were laid out by both national immigration and by local Imabari City. So national immigration says, you know, during the 6 months, in order to receive the business manager visa extension, you have to do this, 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 and this. You have to open a personal bank account. You have to open a business bank account. You have to incorporate your business. You have to do this, be ready to go, and submit your extension application within the 6 months. Imabari City had their own requirements during the startup visa. They required us to work with a business manager or business consultant, who is an amazing guy, and we're still working with him, and we work with him every month. They connected us with him because he was bilingual. He speaks English also, and he used to live in Oregon, where we are from. And we had to meet with them and submit progress reports every 2 months during the 6 months. In City Hall with 2 to 4 employees, it was like a formal presentation of what we had accomplished so far and when we expect to accomplish the rest of our goals. Looking at our example of Kure City, who has gone from a 6-month program to a 2-year program, it says on their website that they're required to check in every month. And it's also unclear if you will just get handed a 2-year visa, or are they making the 6-month startup visa renewable up to 4 times for a maximum of 2 years? Because everywhere that it says 2 years, it actually says a maximum of 2 years. It does not say a 2-year visa. It says for a maximum of a 2-year period. So that's very interesting wording, and it's very possible that in order to make this program longer, they're saying, we'll give you 6 months. If you don't get it done in 6 months, you can apply again for another 6 months. You don't get it done, another 6 months. You know, so that's a huge question. Does anybody have any information on that? In your research, looking into it in your area, does anyone have any insight as to what the check-in process for your area might be?
So we have a conversation between Real Rural Japan and Sparkso, talking about recycling and clearing Akia. And we got another Australian friend who we're helping to buy a house, or I don't know if you can say that yet, but he's looking at a house near here too, and he does that in Australia. So, you know, I don't think he wants to do that here, but that would be a great thing. I think
we've thought about it, and we don't have the time at the moment, but boy, I would love to have access to people who wanted their houses cleared out and able to go through and say, I'll buy these antiques from you and then help you with some of this garbage. Like, I think that would be a fantastic business model, because I think part of the reason there's so many Akia in Japan is that
they're full of stuff and no one wants to deal with it.
They're full of stuff, no one wants to deal with it, and Japanese people selling their houses think that no one is going to buy it if it's full of stuff, so why bother listing it? So they don't realize yet that there's some weird people like me and Evan, and like our Australian friend, who are specifically looking for houses full of stuff. Don't clear them out. We want to go through it. We want antiques. We love old things. So, yeah.
Well,
and Sparksow is Marcus, by the way.
Yeah. And Steve says, I worked in demolition here in Japan on Akiyas, and this industry is tied up and needs a lot of money to get in. You need trucks, JCBs, and a lot of licenses.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah. So think definitely... you know, definitely something to think about. And again, we are opening a retro shop, and we're talking about going into Akiyas and just getting their cool stuff and selling it. Not just in front of the guest house here. And our lawyer did tell us that we need a resell license for selling. He was talking about selling, like, if you sell Disney licensed product, like, for example, you need a license to sell that kind of stuff. That's a specific license in Japan, not from Disney in that example, but from the Japanese government. That's something you need to get.
But also if you purchase anything and sell it. So we are only legally allowed to start our retro shop by selling items that we purchased with our house sale, because those items belong to us. So we can't go out to anyone's Akiya at the current time and say, I'm going to buy these cool things and sell them in my shop without getting the reseller's license. That's something that we'll look into eventually, though.
Yeah, we'll probably do that. We like to do that, but the big point there is that the market for reselling vintage goods in Japan is not large. It is much larger outside of Japan, and so the real money is going to be shipping that stuff out of Japan. Now, you could have a Japanese corporation, and then, like, goes to previous questions, you could have a Japanese corporation that is operating in the United States and it's selling Japanese retro vintage goods in the United States. You know, but that's going to be something we don't have any expertise in. But I mean, come on, that gets into the whole import-export idea, where you take a shipping container, fill it full of cool stuff in Japan from old houses, and then you ship it back to the United States, and then you fill it up with like cheese and coffee or whatever, and ship it back to Japan. That would be a great business model, but.
Now, Matsukawa is in the comments talking about getting 2 years, you have to hit milestones. Getting 2 years is most unlikely for most businesses. I don't know, can you please share a link to cite your sources, because I have not seen any of that.
Yeah, we'd love to
So
look
I'd
at that.
really like to have that link before repeating any of that information, because I did not come across any of that. So please share your source, and then I'll be happy to share that information.
And I think April had a question or comment up earlier, oh, she mentioned China. Something. What do you mean by China? This China thing. She said she can't even talk about it, so maybe she can't talk about it. But I want to know how that affects import-export. Is there something going on with that?
Yeah, but we're getting down to 15 minutes left, so the final question that I am not certain on about the new startup visa is, at what point do you need to fund your business with the 5 million yen? Because when the startup visa expands to up to a maximum of 2 years, it was very clearly laid out for us that we, in order to receive the startup visa, we had to just unofficially, we had to show Imabari City that we had at least 5 million yen in an American bank account, and we did that just by printing out a PDF bank statements. So that's what I mean by it was like sort of unofficial. They didn't have to verify anything. We just had to print out a bank statement and show that we had at least 5 million yen in a bank account. Then we had 6 months to get those bank accounts in Japan opened, go through the lengthy process to get the US dollars converted into Japanese yen, arrive in our personal bank account, and then go over to our business bank account. So with the new startup visa, if we're unsure if you get 6 months at a time or if you get a 2 year at one chunk, you know, it's not yet been laid out how the program will operate, as far as at what point in time during those 2 years maximum do you need to physically have your 5 million yen in your business bank account. So that's another big question that I have and that I've been getting from a lot of people. That has not been made clear yet. Do we have any other questions come in?
We have
related to the startup visa?
To the startup visa, Mighty Miggy just asked what you were just talking about, the money requirements. So did they remove the 5 million yen, or what's the new capital investment?
As far as I know, they did not remove the 5 million yen. No, but they have not clarified at what point during the process you need to. Oh, thank you. Hope it works out for you guys too if you end up doing something like that. So I know you guys send us messages and updates and questions, so please keep in touch, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys in person again soon.
We have a new, where did his go? Nick Skycoms, howdy, new here. Nick from New Zealand, also in plans to relocate to Japan.
Great. Great. Good luck with your process. Feel free to keep in touch. We have learned a lot by others who are actually going through the process. Well, one of my biggest things is sharing actual experiences as opposed to like, I'm thinking about doing this. We love hearing from people who are going through the process and their success stories and their actual challenges and things that we can then share with others. And because some people have very different experiences than we had. So it's good to know, the range of things that could happen based on location and that sort of thing. Jean-Claude, that's a good question. Do they care how long the money sat in your bank account? Also, do stocks count to show that you have the money, or it must be in cash? So once again, this will just be our experience. So our funding came from selling our house in New Orleans. Evan and I mean, we never had, much of a savings account to speak of. We have funded and basically spent our entire savings starting this business that we got a savings account from selling our house in New Orleans. We sold our house in 2021. We arrived in Japan in February 2023, and we went through this process in like spring, summer 2023. So when we were moving the money over from the US to Japan, we had to prove that we obtained that money legally, and that the money belonged to us, and we were not borrowing that money from anyone else. So we had to, with our very friendly bank manager, have multiple meetings. We had to show a bank statement going all the way back to when we sold the house in 2021. We had to prove that the title company that transferred the money to our bank account was the title company in Louisiana that sold our house. We just basically had to prove without a doubt that that money was obtained via legal means. And we changed banks at one point when we moved to Mexico. So we had to show a paper trail for actually 2 different banks all the way back to 2021. So I would say stocks do not count. It has to be cash. It has to be in your bank account, and you have to be able to prove that you obtained that money legally.
And now, what you said about the accounting for where that money came from, that was all through the bank, not the immigration bureau, right?
Correct. That's the bank's requirements.
Yeah. And that's the difference with Japan and the United States, at least, is there's a lot more, close ties between banks and immigration, at least in that case. And then you can. The thing to understand too is I think you just have to have a snapshot of having that money in your portfolio. So you could literally, I think you could have already have spent it just for the sake of argument. But the point is, with a business, is you're supposed to maintain a capital of 5 million as well. So your business is supposed to be worth.
So Wicked of Oz, who is our friend Justin on Nakajima, he says he thought the 5 million yen requirement was being dropped.
Well, send a link, send a source. Be happy to.
Yeah, I had not heard or read that, so that's super interesting if that's the case.
Well, April says not the best time to start thinking about import and export. I agree, but I'd like to hear your reasoning there.
When you responded to Mighty Migi.
Yeah, so he or she wanted to send us a question on.
Okay. Real Rural Japan says, if you found Danny and Evan's talk helpful, show some love with the super chat. That would be much appreciated.
What a great idea, Steve. Thank you.
The info takes a lot of time to compile. And also, if you're interested in the farmer's license, go check out Steve's Patreon. He's got 8 videos over there about obtaining the farmer's license in Japan. He's the best resource that we know of talking about farming in Japan, and he's actually doing it. So check out Steve's channel and his Patreon.
April says, what about past money sitting in the bank? It's liquid assets. You're going to have to account for that. I'm sure there's a window of how far back they're going to look, but liquid assets.
Mm-hmm. Mighty Miggy says, can I drop that link here? Wicked of Oz says, I'll send the link of the video I watched. Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation in videos and articles right now. So if we're talking about the 5 million yen being dropped, I mean, I've seen flat out false videos and articles. There's a lot of information out there right now of a lot of speculation. So please send a link to the video, and then I would just say, does the video cite their sources? Does the video give you a link to a government website, not a news article? So
primary source documents,
yes.
not Wikipedia.
So make sure you've got official documents for anyone that you're trusting. And I'm also not saying just like trust us, you know, because we're obviously saying there's a lot that we know and a lot that we don't know. And so that's why my video is always, you know, I cite my sources and I show the links to the government websites. I'm not linking to news articles because, you know, I'm not the kind of person that's going to call out specific people and say this video is sharing false information about the visa, but they are out there. So, and I'm not, Oz, I'm not saying that you are sharing false information. I'm not saying that the video that you're linking to is definitely false. But just as a general guideline, because this is so hyped up right now, this is like such a thing that people around the world are just like, oh my god, Japan and free houses and startup visa, you can just go there immediately. So just make sure that any resource shares the links and cites the sources of the original government document or website that they're referring to. So that's just a general blanket statement for anything having to do with visas in general. So hopefully that didn't sound too preachy or condescending. I don't mean it in that way, but just know there's a lot of bad info out there. But I'm super interested whether or not the 5 million yen would be dropped. That would be wild. How hard is it to find an immigration lawyer? Do you just go through your closest consulate? So an immigration lawyer is dealing with national Japanese immigration requirements. The thing about Japan, I say all the time that regulations change in each different city and prefecture. So people like a business consultant and licensing and lawyers that help you fill out paperwork, those people have to be local to you to know your local laws. But an immigration lawyer can be located anywhere in Japan because they're all dealing with national immigration. Our immigration lawyer, Shimizu-san with Japan Immigration Experts, he is fantastic. And he is located in Fukuoka. So we've never actually met him. We do a lot of emailing and online Zoom calls. So, and he also speaks English. So you can contact him, or you can contact any immigration lawyer that you think would be a great fit for you, and they can be located anywhere in Japan. So that's a quick answer to that question.
And she says, Patricia, always use the local immigration lawyer, and the issue there is just that the local immigration lawyer is not as likely to speak English, but other than that, yes, I agree.
Yeah, okay. Well, we are almost at 10 o'clock. If a couple other questions about the startup visa pop up, I really hope this has been helpful. I feel like we've sort of been all over the place. We had a lot of questions about farming and all that. We filled the whole 2 hours talking about the startup visa. We didn't go over our everything we accomplished in the past month, which is fine. I mostly made a list of those things just to fill time in case we had some downtime. But we've pretty much had between 30 and 40 people here this whole 2 hours. So we had so many questions. I hope we didn't miss any questions. It's just the two of us. So if we missed any questions, I'm very sorry. Please, leave a comment when this video gets, it takes like 36 or 48 hours for it to become replayable because it's so long. So once the replay becomes available, feel free to leave more questions. We can keep this discussion going. This is an ongoing thing that so many people are interested in. And so I'm sorry if we missed any questions, but we'll keep talking about this.
And we have questions about the format. If you like the format, if you want us to change anything, we are planning right now about doing this monthly at this point, and kind of just leaving it open to our viewers as to what we do each month. So we had a we had a plan for this month. This is our first planned monthly live stream, but for next month and moving forward, we're kind of just thinking of just kind of winging it, because I think people want to hear what we're talking about, and everyone always has questions, so it's really easy, it turns out, to fill up an hour or so.
Yeah, I thought we might get bored or not get enough questions. I thought you guys might get bored. So now that we're at 10 o'clock, if anybody was only here for Startup Visa information, thanks for coming. Happy you joined. Leave us any other questions in the comments below. But we're going to take a couple of minutes if anyone wants to still hang out, and we can talk about some thoughts that we had for these live stream formats for the future. We're going to test out monthly. That's based 100% on your feedback. I mentioned earlier in the video, for some of you who weren't here, we originally planned, we've done 2 live streams before this, and we only did them when something cool was happening or we hit a big milestone, and we said, once we get X number of subscribers, we'll do a live stream and we'll go up in our dusty attic and we're going to open some big trunks. So it was sort of like, I only thought you guys would be interested in having a live chat when something cool was happening, or if we were doing something like that. But I put a poll out there based on some encouragement from some subscribers. You know who you are, and thank you for encouraging me, because we were floored that over 80% of respondents to the poll said you guys wanted to do this monthly, which is like just very surprising to me. I didn't think that we would be that interesting. And we love talking to you guys. I love getting these comments and having this like real-time conversation. Of course we always love your comments on the videos and messages and that sort of thing, but having like a real face-to-face conversation, this is fun. It does take a lot of work to prepare for it. We've spent a couple hours writing down notes and thinking of format ideas and what we talk about. I spent a couple hours last night writing out some bullet points, and then also just figuring out the technology side of how to do this best without messing things up. So we're looking for a little bit more feedback. We're thinking for our format, we'll do it monthly on the last Sunday of the month at the same time, Japan time, 8 to 10 a.m. So we're thinking that we would start out by answering any previous chat questions left in advance, because that would be by people who couldn't make the live stream, and I want to make it easy for them to be able to find the answers to their questions when they're rewatching it after the fact. And then we would chat. And it's very important to me that these live videos do not have YouTube's monetization feature turned on while it's playing live. Because what I found out before we did our very first live stream is that if you monetize a live while it's live, each different viewer shows up at a different time. After a certain amount of time elapses, they'll be shown a 30-second to 1-minute ad, and it doesn't tell us, the streamers, when people are being shown ads. And that to me seems incredibly annoying, because what if someone was waiting for their question to get answered, and it happened while an ad was being shown, and nobody wants to have ads while you're having a conversation. So it's very important to me to keep the YouTube ads off while we're live like this. when I do the replay, yeah, I'll turn monetization on for that, and so ads will pop up, but you can skip those. But we also need to make this time, you know, time is valuable. And, you know, if we're going to do it monthly, we want to figure out a way how to make this make sense for us. We're super busy, but we love talking with you guys, and we also want to share information freely. I don't want things to be necessarily behind a paywall. Like, I don't want that. Can you add to this, maybe?
I was just wanting some comments. What do you specifically?
I was just talking about like how.
Oh, how we're structuring. Yeah, well, because we are doing consulting as well, and so if possible, we'd like to. I mean, barring time constraints, we'd like to funnel that all to the consulting. But I think just the way the internet works and the way the world is going, I think it just makes the most sense to just put everything out there, you know. And I spend a lot of money on books, not since we left America, since shipping and all, but historically I've spent a ton of money on books, so I get it. I totally think that we need to support content creators, but it is what it is, you know, and just free access to information is the way of the world. But that being said, we're gonna put everything we can out there, and there's still gonna be unique questions that people are gonna have, and we were thinking of this as just being our kind of office hours, you know. So you can shoot us an email, and that's going to take time to respond, or you can ask us in the chat here, and that's going to take less time for us to respond, and it's time that we've already booked for answering questions. So it really helps us, you know.
Yeah. So we have, like, if you want one-on-one, in-depth consulting. We've done consulting calls for people talking about moving here for the startup visa, people have questions, detailed questions about whether or not they think their business would be successful here, and they just want to talk to someone who's been through it. We've done a number of consulting calls, a couple from Mexico, a couple from Canada, and we do local real estate consulting. We've done quite a few house tours where we go tour a house on someone's behalf and we take video and photo. I've only shared one of those, and that was actually one of our top 5 most watched videos, was touring that $1,300 abandoned house, which he did not buy, by the way. He's still looking. So, you know, we are doing consulting, and I think that's going to become a bigger and bigger part of our business. But we want this time, this live stream time, you know, if you just have a quick question, you don't need a consulting call. So, you know, we have this time to connect with not only us, but with other people in the comments who also might be able to answer your questions. So this is sort of, like Evan said, I like the way he said, this is just our office hours. We're here to talk and share information freely. If you want to leave a super chat, that's great. You know, thank you. I've had people send us a buy me a coffee. We call them chickens because we're saving up to expand and finally get chickens again. So we've had people buy us a chicken just for...
That's our heater.
Oh, that's our heater, is singing a song to us. So we've had people hop over to our Buy Me a Coffee and send us, you know, $5 or $10 for answering their YouTube questions, which was like completely unexpected. So we do have a Buy Me a Coffee page. Our YouTube is monetized now, so we do have super chats are available for live streams or for any video. You can send a super chat. Of course, those are our 2 donation pages at the moment. Because those count as business income. Anything that goes to our Buy Me a Coffee or our YouTube is counted as business income. It goes directly to the Benton Homestead bank account. So all of that income actually helps us with our visa renewal, which is incredible. So for the live streams, it's not required. please don't think that anything for this is required because we're doing this, but it is appreciated, absolutely. Either the super chats on YouTube or the Buy Me a Chicken over on the Buy Me a Coffee page. Those are awesome, and we really appreciate it, because sometimes when I'm answering someone's question, I'll sit there for like 20 minutes and put a lot of thought into it and answer just a comment on a video from a random person, you know, or people email me with these huge long emails telling me their whole story, and it's like, wow, of course I want to help this person, and responding to an email takes a lot of time, especially if, you know, I've got to read through it and they have complicated questions, and I try to answer it and then send them to someone who can help even more, you know. So we do really appreciate that, and it is our livelihood here, and every little bit actually helps us get our visa renewed. So that's not like a gimmicky thing to say, like that is the truth of our situation, is that our visa renewal is 100% tied to the success of our business. And we're really hoping to make more than we spend this year so we can get that 3 or 5 year visa instead of 1 year this Christmas. I do want to say, Adam, if you're still here or if you showed up, Adam is our very first Buy Me a Coffee monthly subscriber. So he is buying us one $5 chicken every month, which is amazing. And Adam has also been messaging me privately, and I haven't shared it with you yet, but he sent us some plans for like some cool ways to heat our house using a cob heater and some biochar using. He sent us some great ideas. So Adam's a cool guy. He's our very first Buy Me a Coffee subscriber. So thank you for that, Adam. And so yeah, that's the that's why we're not monetizing the live streams, and you know, donations are always appreciated, and then we do have the consulting time if you have more specific one-on-one questions, if you want just an hour of our time, both of us together, to, you know, whatever it is, if it has to do with real estate, visas, startup business, you know, just life in Japan. If you want an hour of our time, we are available for that. And the last thing we're thinking about for the future format of these monthly chats is whether or not, should we have a monthly topic or should we keep it open-ended? So Evan, you're here in the chat, but I'm looking for specific chat answers that come up about. Let's think about this. So this monthly topic, we're starting off our series of monthly live streams trying to talk specifically about the startup visa. We had a ton of farming questions, and that was a great conversation. Super great. And we obviously have way more farming questions to answer. So should we try and keep a topic every month or not? Should we just throw that idea out the window and just have it be totally open-ended for anybody's questions about Japan, real estate, visas, immigration, farming, honeybees, antiques, retro stuff, video games, like what, you know, like, should we have a monthly topic and try to stick to it, or should we have it completely open-ended each month?
There's a security question here. April says she put her email in the chat and she wants me to delete it, but I'm not seeing it. So if anyone sees her email, I think it's only showing up for you, April.
Yeah,
I checked it out. I checked it out. Just if anyone sees her email in the chat, let me know, and then forget it. But I don't think it's showing up for you. I think it does a thing where if it sees the.
I don't think YouTube chat lets you actually publish a comment with personal information like that. So I think they probably have a filter in place that has removed that comment for everyone besides you. So, but April, we'll go ahead and double check. I'm seeing a confirmation from Steve, who's been a fabulous co-host for this. Steve, thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy today. You've got your cafe to run. Thank you, Steve. I can't thank Steve from Real Rural Japan enough. Please go check out his channel and his Patreon. Steve says, April, he does not see your email in the chat either. Let's see, so some questions. General Q&A. Keep it open. Topic for the first half and then Q&A. Okay. Doing a monthly live stream, set the topic for 30 to 40 minutes and then have it open-ended. One vote for open-ended, half and half. Should have monthly chat theme and last 15 minutes or so to answer other questions. Oh, last 15. Okay, sort of like this. Open-ended in the live stream, but maybe can have a response form before the stream a week before so you can see popular questions beforehand. This is all great information. Thank you guys. There's 35 of you who have stuck around for 15 minutes, after this month's topic to help us figure this out. I really appreciate this, and hope you don't think I'm rambling too much. This is fantastic feedback. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I can't thank all of you by name.
And Seb says you bought us a chicken, so thank you very much, Seb.
Thank you for the chicken. No worries. Always good to see you guys from Steve. Always great to see you too. I say, Mighty Migi says, I say have a segment where you can talk about anything you want to bring up and a Q&A for that end, then open it up for open-ended stuff. Okay, so it seems to be either open-ended or half and half is the general consensus. We'll think about this. We'll get it sort of figured out by next month, and maybe we'll take a couple of months and test out different things, see what works best. Because I don't want to stifle any conversation, but I also don't want it to be like completely all over the map. Because I do like to prepare ahead of time. This is really nice for me, because sometimes when I feel put on the spot, I forget how to speak words, and this has been really comfortable for me. I'm very nervous in front of the camera, but I think this has gone pretty well. You've been comfortable. I think part of the reason it's gone well for me is because I had some notes to look back to. So by having a monthly topic, at least for half of the time, that would make me feel a little better because I would have been able to put a couple hours preparation in ahead of time to sort of write out some bullet points for what to talk about if the chat gets slow. Let's see, what else are people saying? Starting with a topic would be nice, and then branching off to make it open-ended.
Show and tell.
Show and tell. Marcus, of course. Yes, that would be fun. Maybe you could think about separating the chat for me. I'm not sure what that means.
All right, bye, Steve.
Bye, Steve. Thank you.
Mucho gusto.
Good luck with your cafe. Save some pizza for us. We don't know what we don't know, so if you do a topic, you might bring something up we wouldn't think to ask. That's a really good point. By the cottage hearth? Hearth. Sorry. Mighty Miggy, you're flattering me. Live streams are a great way to get comfortable. Yeah, working on it. This was good. I liked having a little bit of a format, but I think yeah, we'll figure it out before next month. We'll have a little bit more of a framework in place. I'll put up the link to next month's live stream probably 2 weeks in advance, just so people can go leave chat comments ahead of time. And then also if there's a monthly theme, if we decide to do like a monthly theme for half of the conversation, then you'll have a couple of weeks to sort of think about that topic and whether or not you have questions related to that topic. So look for a link to February's live stream sometime in the next couple of weeks. If you have any suggestions for topics of future months, that would also be fantastic. So I will, if we do a monthly theme, I already know exactly what the first couple of months would be, and it would be based on our most asked questions. Sometimes we get asked the same question over and over and over, which is nothing wrong with that, but that means that that question would be a perfect topic. So, but of course, if you have a specific topic that you want to talk about, if you got a bunch of questions about one topic, and you don't want to do a consultation or anything, then let me know, and we can make that a topic of an upcoming live stream. Because that way you're not only getting our feedback with the live stream topics, then you're getting other people's feedback. And as long as people are giving information that can be verified and is not hearsay, then I think this could be a good resource for a lot of people, to not just connect with us, but to connect with everybody who has the same questions as you.
Danny DeVito wants a playlist for how to move to Japan. Have you put together a playlist yet?
That's a good question. I'm not very good at putting together the playlists for videos. I have one for our first house, the guest house, one for the second house. I have a playlist for how to dispose of garbage. I have a playlist for just the data videos. That's a good question. I don't have a specific playlist. In fact, I've only made like 4 or 5 of the data heavy videos because I spent 8 hours writing the blog for this Startup Visa 2025 Changes video. And that's just sitting and writing and finding links and citing sources and then filming. No, not even filming. That was just writing. That was just researching and writing. I spent 8 hours, and that was after emailing a bunch of people and doing other research for the whole week prior. So my data heavy videos that have a blog and an accompanying video, those take me literally days. So I love doing them though, and I want to do more of those. The ones I have so far are also in our top 5 most viewed videos. So they're obviously appreciated and tons of people watch them. So far I have the Startup Visa to Business Manager Visa complete process, and I have the Abandoned Akia to Airbnb Guest House complete process. I also have one on our 1 year review wrap-up of our guest house operation, how much we made, and how it differed or did not differ from our expectations, and just sort of thinking about running a guest house and things we've learned in the first year. And then I made the just the one this week, starting about the 2025 visa, startup visa changes. So maybe there's only 4 data videos that I've made. I call them data videos. It just means there's a accompanying long written blog with lots of links and resources to the video. So I don't have a playlist yet, but you can search our channel for the word data, and then that's going to pull up my blog based videos. Yes, April, I'll definitely look for your email in the chat. I know a number of people confirmed that no one else could see it. But before this video goes live, I will, before the video becomes rewatchable, I'll go through and read every single comment just to make sure that your email is not there. So I'm pretty sure YouTube has a filter to keep that out. No need to apologize, but I'm like 99% sure that YouTube does not let you publish email addresses in the comments. It's probably visible to you and nobody else, but we'll double check before. Okay, I think we're wrapping up here. We're going almost a half hour over, so it's also good that we didn't run out of things to talk about. So thank you guys. There's still 35 of you watching, so that means almost everybody stuck around for this whole extra chat. So thanks so much. This is our first attempt at this new format of a monthly live stream. I had fun. I think this was great.
Yeah,
And
great times.
good conversation in the chat. Lots of good questions. Lots of people in the chat sort of answering each other's questions.
Yeah,
So,
thanks for everyone who answered other questions for us. Appreciate
yeah,
that.
really appreciate it. We're all working together. We're all part of a team. So,
And thanks for behaving yourselves.
thanks so much. And Marcus, we'll see you soon. We might have a guest house remodeled bathtub before you get here. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. Thanks, guys. This has been great. We'll see y'all next month, and then we'll have more videos coming out between now and then. So, thanks, guys.
All right.
How do I turn it off?